The title of the story, That Count's Daughter is a Stand-In, flashes boldly across the opening page. The grand title sequence continues, setting a dramatic stage for a gripping tale of substitution. A heavy revelation drops, confirming that the Count's daughter is merely acting as a stand-in. A commanding voice fiercely vows to try and love her despite the complicated circumstances. She reflects mournfully on how she had always dreamed of escaping her current misery. Desperately hoping for a savior, she wonders if this mysterious person is finally the one to rescue her. The main title card officially introduces the sweeping narrative of the Count's stand-in daughter. A silent, atmospheric moment builds the tension before the daily struggles of her life begin. The scene shifts abruptly, bringing sharp focus to a new and oppressive environment. A quiet, heavy atmosphere lingers over the opulent but dreadfully cold household. To avoid being ruthlessly beaten by her family, Ali-Shi makes sure she is the very first to sit at the morning table. Someone sharply barks Alish's name, shattering the fragile morning silence. A harsh voice loudly berates Ali-Shi for her supposed failure to greet her sister upon her arrival. The cruel relative screams that such disrespectful behavior is simply impossible to tolerate. Exhausted by the daily verbal abuse, Ali-Shi wonders if she hears that same cruel catchphrase 50 times a day. Realizing her older sister Rose is furious over a dress, Ali-Shi regrets being too focused on erasing her own presence to notice the impending storm. Mocking her own grim reality, Ali-Shi wonders if her abuser will break the record of shouting 88 times in a single day. A servant cautiously addresses young Lady Ali-Shi, interrupting her dark internal thoughts. The call for Lady Ali-Shi echoes again, demanding her immediate and undivided attention. Covering up her anxiety, Ali-Shi quickly greets her big sister Rose and nervously claims she was merely feeling thirsty. Rose dismisses Alish's polite greeting with a cold, incredibly bored sneer. A strict voice cuts through the tension, commanding Rose to drop the sisterly act and eat breakfast. Ali-Shi looks at the people around her, silently reflecting on the grim reality of her oppressive family. Acknowledging her parents, Rose immediately complies and prepares to endure the miserable family meal. Ali-Shi mentally lists her father Count Grande Goldo, her stepmother Katharina, her night brother Balsami, and her cruel sister Rose. Despite being one of the 5 household members, Ali-Shi sadly realizes her family views her as nothing more than a bothersome servant. She vividly recalls the exact, horrifying moment when her personal hell truly began. 12 years ago, her father shattered her world by bringing home a new wife and declaring her to be Alish's new mother. The new stepmother unleashes a haughty, sinister laugh that echoes menacingly through the grand halls. A sudden, piercing scream rips through the air as the emotional abuse turns violently physical. The devastating impact of the unprovoked violence leaves Ali-Shi trembling in silent agony. Her stepmother viciously orders her to stop crawling and get back to work, mocking that the filthy floor suits her perfectly. Disgusted by Alish's mere presence, the stepmother cruelly commands the terrified girl to clean the floors all over again. While scrubbing the ground, Ali-Shi laments that other girls her age are happily making their glorious debuts in high society. Having worked like a slave since she was 5, she finds small comfort in tending livestock but utterly despises the endless cleaning. The familiar, hateful catchphrase rings out yet again, proving that her torment is an inescapable cycle. Amidst the relentless abuse, Ali-Shi tragically admits that she possesses absolutely no memories of her real mother. Heartbroken and isolated, she realizes she cannot recall a single memory of ever being genuinely loved. Shockwaves erupt through the abusive household when a sudden marriage proposal arrives from the prestigious Marquis Grandia. The sheer magnitude of the Marquis' unexpected proposal leaves everyone in stunned, breathless silence. The father announces the arrival of a personal letter from Marquis Grandia, urging his shocked family to remain calm. Governing the Western Dias territory, the Grandia family stands as a powerful and deeply trusted noble house within the Lemuria kingdom. Seeing a perfect political match, the father praises the heir, Sir Solfa, as a renowned hero among the royal knights. Furious at the suggestion, Rose fiercely questions her father's judgment while scoffing at the supposed hero's reputation. She blatantly mocks the eccentric hero title, arguing that it completely disqualifies him as an excellent match for her. Continuing her rant, Rose disparages Sir Solfa by referring to him as the bloodless and heartless Western devil. Refusing to back down, the father adamantly insists that there is no better match for their Count family. The stepmother violently backs Rose, screaming that forcing her to marry Sir Solfa is an absolutely impossible demand. Enraged, Rose accuses her father of disregarding her safety, screaming that he wouldn't care even if a demon ruined her. Having endured enough disrespect, the father sharply silences both Rose and Katharina with a single commanding shout. A tense, heavy silence instantly falls over the deeply fractured family as they process the explosive argument. Observing the chaos quietly, Ali-Shi coldly rationalizes that her cruel sister's departure would finally mean one less tormentor. Suddenly, a sinister smile spreads across Rose's face as she maliciously declares this to be wonderful news for Alishi. Unaware of the impending trap, Alishi desperately hopes that this mysterious man might make her current hell slightly more bearable. Utter confusion washes over Alishi as her wicked sister's malicious plot quickly begins to take shape. Rose cruelly threatens Alishi, revealing the dark scheme that she will be the one marrying into the market as a stand-in. Dripping with pure malice, Rose mocks that even if a demon attacks Alishi, the lowly girl would be perfectly fine. Completely blindsided by the twisted declaration, Alishi stares at her older sister in absolute disbelief. The sheer weight of this sudden, life-altering betrayal crashes down heavily upon the young girl's shoulders. Panicking internally, Alishi frantically questions why she is suddenly being forced into a terrifying marriage instead of Rose. The calculating stepmother notes that this deceptive substitution safely prevents them from making enemies of the kingdom's bloodthirstiest family. Dreaming of ultimate power, the treacherous family greedily envisions commanding the immense wealth and authority of the Western Dias territory. The stepmother ruthlessly orders Alishi to be grateful, decreeing that they must polish the fake into a flawless jewel. Overwhelmed by their endless selfishness, Alishi silently fears that this highly dangerous deception will end in absolute disaster. A sudden realization strikes her mind, sparking a faint glimmer of hope that this forced marriage means leaving the house. Stunned by the miraculous possibility, Alishi marvels at the thought of finally breaking free from her lifelong abusers. Her fate is instantly sealed with the ultimate decree that she will marry into the Grandia market in exactly 1 week. Accepting her inescapable destiny, Alishi quietly submits to the family's cruel and demanding scheme without a fight. She bravely resolves that facing an eccentric demon is absolutely nothing compared to the daily hell she already endures. Bursting into dramatic tears, the loyal maid Nenna fiercely vows to do everything in her power to help the young lady. Nenna loudly wails over the terrible news, deeply heartbroken for Alish's tragic and utterly unfair situation. Grateful for one of the only 2 maids who ever cared for her, Alishi gently accepts Nenna's devoted and emotional support. Intense training begins immediately as Alishi clumsily practices walking in high heels and imitating Rose's incredibly haughty demeanor. Pushing through the extreme awkwardness, Alishi slowly starts mastering the terrifyingly perfect impression of her cruel older sister. A chillingly accurate aristocratic laugh echoes through the room, signaling that her forced transformation is rapidly taking shape. To perfectly complete the disguise, magical adjustments are meticulously made to change Alish's jade green eyes into Rose's striking blue. Donning a blonde wig and a lavish red dress tailored to Rose's exact taste, Alishi fully steps into her fake identity. Outside, the bustling town bursts into a festive celebration, loudly cheering for the impending grand departure of Lady Rose. The magnificent carriage embarks on a grueling several-day journey from the central Moria territory to the distant Western Dias territory. Having bravely volunteered as Alish's supervisor to prevent the disguise from failing, Nenna rides alongside her into the dangerous unknown. Overwhelmed by her maid's unwavering loyalty, Alishi quietly whispers her heartfelt gratitude to Nenna. The magnificent carriage rumbles steadily along the dusty path toward their daunting and unknown destination. Catching herself mid-sentence, Nenna excitedly announces to the disguised Lady Rose that the Grand Market is finally coming into view. Gazing out the carriage window, Alishi marvels at the enormous estate and its breathtaking garden bursting with blooming flowers. Her wide eyes quickly catch sight of an elegant, sparkling fountain and an impressively massive pond. The majestic Grandia mansion looms impossibly large, casting an imposing but magnificent shadow over the arriving guests. Rolling to a graceful halt, the extravagant carriage completely eclipses the grand entrance of the vast noble estate. A sharply dressed attendant carefully assists the disguised young lady as she gingerly steps down from the carriage. Bowing with absolute reverence, the servant warmly welcomes Lady Rose Goldo and politely guides her inside. Leading her through the opulent halls, the servant announces that the young master has been patiently awaiting her arrival. As the grand doors approach, a nervous Alishi desperately prays that her flawless impression of her older sister holds up under scrutiny. Stepping tentatively into the massive room, she immediately feels the crushing weight of the suffocating, silent atmosphere. Desperately commanding her racing heart to calm down, Alishi forces herself to stand tall and act like a proper aristocratic lady. A profoundly intimidating figure waits at the far end of the room, exuding an overwhelming and terrifying aura of absolute authority. Taking a hesitant breath, Alishi finally lays her eyes upon Sir Solfa, the infamous and powerful heir of the Grandia Marquis. The imposing man wears a striking jet-black mantle lined with crimson, his sharp, piercing blue eyes locked directly onto her. His lustrous, perfectly swept black hair beautifully frames a face that is both incredibly handsome and deeply intimidating. Trembling slightly, Alishi cannot help but compare this breathtaking, intense man to a dark demon prince ripped straight from a fairy tale. She frantically questions why a man rumored to have absolutely zero interest in women would ever propose to her cruel sister. Staring at the legendary Sir Solfa, she recalls the chilling rumors labeling him the bloodless, heartless Western devil. Overwhelmed by his sheer presence, Ali-Shi bitterly assumes this brief, dreamlike encounter is just a prelude before God throws her back into hell. She tragically reminds herself that an abused, unworthy fake like her could never naturally approach such a magnificent noble. Without warning, the towering Marquis suddenly takes a terrifyingly deliberate step toward the trembling, disguised girl. Shattering the tense silence, Solfa barks a sharp command that instantly cracks her carefully constructed facade. Startled by his abrupt intensity, Ali-Shi lets out a frightened yelp and instinctively shrinks back in absolute terror. Confused by her incredibly ungraceful reaction, Solfa narrows his sharp blue eyes and leans in for a much closer inspection. The terrifyingly handsome Marquis completely invades her personal space, trapping the panicking girl under his intense, predatory gaze. Flustered by his dangerously close face, Ali-Shi stammers incoherently as her mind goes completely blank with raw panic. Staring directly into her terrified eyes, Solfa coldly and confidently declares that she is absolutely not Lady Rose Goldo. A heavy, suffocating silence violently crashes down upon the room as the devastating accusation hangs heavily in the air. Screaming internally, Ali-Shi completely panics over the terrifying fact that her perfect disguise was instantly and effortlessly seen through. Shocked by the explosive accusation, an older servant stammers wildly, frantically questioning what his master could possibly mean. Ignoring the rising chaos, Solfa sharply summons his loyal attendant Smith to immediately address the bizarre and highly suspicious situation. Desperately trying to salvage the failing deception, Smith loudly insists that this young woman is undoubtedly the eldest Goldo daughter. Sweating profusely, Ali-Shi forcefully bows and frantically shouts that she is indeed the honored Rose Goldo. Shaking like a leaf, the disguised girl mentally praises Smith for his incredibly desperate but perfectly timed backup. Standing his ground, Smith confidently swears to his young master that this is the exact same Lady Rose he once saw at a high society gathering. Shattering their fragile defense, Solfa smoothly reveals that he actually personally witnessed the real Rose when he visited the Moria territory. The Marquis drops a massive bombshell, revealing that the Lady Rose he saw was secretly dressed as a common town girl and happily playing with animals. Both Ali-Shi and Smith loudly gasp in complete disbelief, utterly shocked by Solfa's impossible and highly specific revelation. Startled by the revelation, Smith narrows his eyes as a sudden thought crosses his mind. He vividly recalls a striking young girl possessing short, beautiful silver hair and captivating eyes. Connecting the dots, Smith mutters that the description sounds suspiciously like Lady Ali-Shi. He confidently declares that he could never forget those incredibly clear, pale jade-colored eyes. Realizing the massive misunderstanding, Smith suspects that Sir Solfa mistakenly recognized Lady Ali-Shi as Lady Rose. Shocked by this explosive deduction, Ali-Shi screams internally as her mind reels from the impossible truth. She frantically questions if this means she is actually Sir Solfa's true intended bride instead of her older sister. A heavy, dramatic tension fills the grand room as the staggering reality of the marriage proposal sets in. Piercing through the silence, Solfa maintains a sharp, unwavering gaze that completely paralyzes the disguised girl. The astonishing realization fully crashes down upon her that the terrifying Marquis never intended to propose to Rose. Utterly bewildered, Ali-Shi points to herself in sheer disbelief as she grasps that she was the target all along. She trembles violently while staring directly at the incredibly powerful man known widely as a terrifying demon. Shattering her internal panic, Solfa coldly apologizes and immediately requests to break off the arranged engagement with Lady Rose. Caught completely off guard by the sudden rejection, a stunned Ali-Shi silently agrees that keeping up the deception is impossible. Panicking over the political disaster, Smith loudly protests that breaking off the engagement would cause a massive problem. Acknowledging the delicate situation, Solfa commands everyone to relocate to his private study for a proper discussion. Turning swiftly on his heel, the imposing Marquis leads the bewildered group deeper into the sprawling estate. Desperate to maintain control of the chaotic situation, the disguised Ali-Shi frantically requests permission to join the critical meeting. Halting his steps, Solfa casts a cold, calculating glance back at the trembling girl dressed as Rose. The heavy thud of footsteps echoes ominously through the opulent halls as they approach the secluded study. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, Solfa steps into a lavishly decorated room designed for serious negotiations. Settling into the oppressive atmosphere of the study, everyone prepares for the intense conversation ahead. Breaking the ice, Solfa calmly explains that his father is unfortunately away on a distant military expedition. Trying to defuse the tension, Ali-Shi timidly suggests consulting Marquis Grandia since the matter deeply affects both noble families. Smith reveals that the widowed Marquis desperately wants Sulfa to marry, while Sulfa insists on choosing someone he genuinely likes. Elaborating further, Smith laments that Sulfa's terrifying reputation as the Western Devil has severely ruined his marriage prospects. Interrupting the gloom, Smith fondly recalls how the normally expressionless young master returned home looking incredibly joyful a month ago. Remembering that day, Smith apologizes for missing the trip and asks if something wonderful happened during the social gathering. Drifting into a rare moment of nostalgia, Sulfa closes his eyes and vividly recalls the life-changing encounter. Correcting his loyal attendant, Sulfa softly admits that the magical moment did not actually occur at a high society event. A gentle bell rings in his memory, instantly transporting the narrative back to a humble, sunlit town square. In the vivid flashback, a sweet girl affectionately tends to a cow, gently promising to relieve its full udders. Dressed in plain town clothes, the genuine Ali she works diligently and happily alongside the gentle livestock. Captivated by her pure kindness, a younger Sulfa watches silently as the girl effortlessly bonds with the animals. Deeply intrigued by her warm smile, Sulfa politely approaches a local villager to ask about the hard-working child. The friendly villager brightly confirms that the girl is an incredibly kind and highly respected young lady. Praising her unmatched work ethic, the local explains that she comes to the farm almost every single day to help. Snapping violently back to the present, Sulfa states his intent to propose to Ali Shi and officially breaks his engagement to Rose. Trembling with shock, the disguised girl awkwardly confesses that the beloved younger sister he seeks is actually her. Processing the staggering revelation, Sulfa smiles softly as he finally learns the true name of the girl who stole his heart. Smith firmly declares that breaking off the engagement would be completely impossible in their current political climate. Internally panicking, Ali Shi frantically wonders how she can explain that the real Ali Shi is standing right in front of him. Staring intently at the Marquis, Ali Shi cautiously asks what he found so appealing about a shabby town girl milking cows. Dropping her facade slightly, she confesses her complete confusion over why she is even receiving this sudden marriage proposal. Sulfa's expression softens as he calmly declares that her hardworking, humble nature is exactly what he loves about her. Recalling the beautiful memory, he vividly describes a girl without makeup wiping away sweat while happily talking to livestock. Disgusted by high society, he coldly notes that previous noblewomen were nothing more than greedy people dressed in fancy ornaments. Locking his piercing gaze on the stunned girl, he firmly proclaims that Ali Shi is the one woman he has been endlessly searching for. Overwhelmed by absolute certainty, Sulfa confidently reiterates that there is absolutely no mistake in his heart regarding his choice. The heavy realization hits Ali Shi, freezing her in place as the sheer weight of his sincere confession completely sinks in. A deafening silence stretches between them as the disguised girl struggles to process the terrifyingly intense feelings of the Marquis. Flushing deeply with embarrassment, Ali Shi silently screams at the horrifying realization that he heard her talking to the cows back then. In his vivid memory, the genuine Ali Shi sweetly promises Momo and Milky lots of love once their tiring milking session is over. Burning bright red, Ali Shi mentally panics over the utterly humiliating fact that he watched her private, affectionate animal routine. Noticing her flushed cheeks, Smith curiously asks why Lady Rose's face is suddenly turning so incredibly red during the conversation. Blushing slightly himself, Sulfa awkwardly apologizes and admits he simply could not help but be entirely captivated by her charm. Alish's mind practically explodes as she comprehends the impossible reality that the fearsome Sir Sulfa was genuinely captivated by her. Stroking his chin in deep thought, Smith heavily points out the extreme difficulty of telling the Count's family this was all a mistake. Frantically keeping up the act, Ali Shi lies that her younger sister is currently visiting a remote convent at the far eastern edge. Shocked by this highly convenient excuse, a distressed Sulfa mutters that bringing her back from a distant convent would be incredibly difficult. Trapped within her own massive deception, Ali Shi furiously ponders what she should actually do to safely resolve this spiraling crisis. She bitterly acknowledges that the real Rose is receiving special treatment at the hidden convent just to keep the cruel deception alive. Despair washes over her trembling form as she painfully realizes the inescapable truth of her suffocating, completely trapped situation. Crushed by her abusive family's absolute control, Ali Shi tragically accepts that she must never reveal her true existence to the Marquis. Though fiercely tempted to rip off the blonde wig and expose the fake stand-in plot, a dark terror holds her completely paralyzed. Terrified of absolute political ruin, she realizes the catastrophic danger of angering the powerful Grandia family with the Goldo family's filthy lies. The crushing weight of inevitable, brutal punishment violently suffocates any fleeting hope of freedom she momentarily felt within her heart. Staring blankly ahead, Ali Shi forcefully buries her true, desperate identity beneath the cold, oppressive mask of Lady Rose. A dark, heartbreaking truth vividly echoes in her mind, reminding her that she is nothing more than an abused, worthless slave. Swallowing her bitter tears, she tragically convinces herself that someone as damaged as her should never be chosen by anyone. Snapping her violently out of her dark spiral, Solfa softly calls out the name Rose, immediately drawing her startled attention. Lowering his powerful head with sincere regret, the imposing Marquis genuinely apologizes for doing something he deems completely unforgivable. Flustered by his highly unexpected kindness, Ali-Shi frantically waves her trembling hands and stammers that she is truly perfectly fine. Stepping closer, Solfa fiercely locks his piercing blue eyes onto her shaking form, absolutely refusing to accept her incredibly weak lie. Seeing right through her fragile, crumbling facade, he bluntly declares that she is clearly not fine because her true pain shows on her face. Desperate to hide her swirling inner turmoil, she smoothly lies that she was merely shocked by the sudden news of the broken engagement. Misinterpreting her deep, unspoken sadness, Solfa quietly assumes his harsh rejection has tragically caused the noble lady to look incredibly gloomy. Staring in complete awe at the surprisingly gentle Marquis, Ali-Shi feels an unexpected, comforting warmth slowly blooming within her battered heart. Realizing his incredibly true nature, she silently notes that Sir Solfa is absolutely not the cold, heartless demon the terrible rumors claim. Deeply moved by his raw compassion, Ali-Shi completely shatters her preconceptions, realizing he sincerely considers and worries about the fragile feelings of others. Staring in absolute awe, Ali-Shi finally realizes this towering man is the heroic prince destined to save her from hell. Stepping forward with a sudden, daring plan, Smith confidently interrupts Sir Solfa to offer an unexpected proposal. Smith firmly warns the fierce Marquis that instantly breaking off a formal engagement would ignite a massive political disaster. Processing the heavy truth, the imposing Marquis remains utterly silent while carefully weighing his loyal attendant's bold words. Smith brilliantly suggests utilizing the 6-month wedding preparation period for Solfa to secretly judge if Rose is a suitable partner. Staring deeply into the disguised girl's terrified eyes, Solfa silently calculates the hidden, dangerous risks of this temporary arrangement. Desperate to protect her, Smith intensely argues that the trembling Lady Rose possesses the exact same kind heart as Ali-Shi. Moved by his loyal attendant's passionate defense, a faint glimmer of genuine compassion softens the terrifying Marquis's sharp features. Lowering his head in sincere regret, Solfa completely admits that he behaved incredibly rudely toward a woman he just met. The heavy, suffocating tension finally shatters as Solfa makes his ultimate, life-altering decision regarding the desperate girl standing before him. Solfa apologizes and firmly declares that if things violently fail after 6 months, he will formally sever their political engagement. Locking his intense blue eyes onto hers, the majestic Marquis vows with absolute, breathtaking sincerity that he will try to love her. A massive wave of pure, unadulterated relief crashes over Ali-Shi as Smith joyfully celebrates the miraculously salvaged situation. Trembling with a mix of shock and overwhelming gratitude, the disguised girl awkwardly bows and completely accepts his unexpected kindness. A sudden, shocking gasp forcefully escapes Alish's lips as the towering Marquis unexpectedly closes the distance between them. Returning her deep sentiment with a dangerously charming smile, Solfa whispers a smooth reply that instantly sets her bruised heart racing. Blushing furiously, Ali-Shi screams internally as the terrifyingly handsome Marquis gently but firmly grasps her violently trembling hand. Thus, the breathtaking countdown begins as Ali-Shi amazingly secures a fragile 6-month stay at the sprawling Grandia Market. Trapped within her cruel sister's shadow, she heavily realizes she must flawlessly prove her ultimate worth as Solfa's true provisional fiancé. Haunted by his incredibly sincere gaze, Alish's mind spins wildly as she obsessively replays those dreamlike, utterly unbelievable words of love. The lingering, intense warmth of his large, comforting hand completely consumes her chaotic thoughts and leaves her utterly breathless. Snapping her violently out of her deep romantic daze, someone loudly and repeatedly calls out the name Rose to grab her attention. Teasingly scolding her, the ever-loyal Nena sharply reminds the distracted girl that constantly spacing out completely ruins her flawless disguise. Flustered by her maid's incredibly accurate observation, Ali-Shi awkwardly fidgets while desperately trying to regain her forced aristocratic composure. Smiling sheepishly at her trusted companion, she softly apologizes and completely confesses that she was helplessly distracted by the recent dramatic events. Clenching her fists with burning, unyielding determination, Ali-Shi fiercely vows to tighten her resolve and absolutely survive this terrifying ordeal. Cheering her on, Nena passionately agrees that she must perfectly maintain the cruel, heavily haughty persona of her evil older sister. A sudden, sharp summons echoes through the quiet halls, immediately commanding the disguised Lady Rose to attend to Marquis Solfa. Marching nervously toward the grand dining room, Ali-Shi desperately mentally prepares herself for whatever intense, terrifying trial awaits her next. Standing before a lavishly decorated table, Solfa warmly welcomes the trembling girl and loudly announces that their magnificent meal is finally ready. Utterly bewildered by the incredibly grand setup, Alishi stammers in complete confusion as Solfa surprisingly invites the lowly maid Nena to join them. Smiling gently at her utter complete confusion, the powerful Marquis proudly reveals that this massive, opulent feast is her official welcome banquet. Encouraging both stunned women to eat endlessly, Solfa completely shatters Alish's dark worldview with the Marquis's unimaginably warm and courteous customs. Staring in absolute shock, she shockingly realizes that the terrifying Marquis and all his humble servants are joyfully sharing the exact same food. Overwhelmed by the vibrant, bustling atmosphere, she frantically glances around the massive dining hall in pure, complete, unadulterated disbelief. Noticing her crippling hesitation, Nena excitedly whispers that no one is harshly judging her and desperately urges her to finally enjoy the grand feast. Staring tearfully at the roasted meats, she tragically recalls that her exceptionally cruel family only ever fed her absolute scraps like raw vegetables and stale bread. Misinterpreting her stunned silence, a polite servant frantically offers to immediately replace any dish that remotely displeases the Honorable Lady Rose. Tears of absolute joy well up in her vibrant eyes as she happily prepares to taste her very first genuinely luxurious, incredibly hot meal. Raising his glass with a genuinely warm smile, Solfa proudly and officially begins the magnificent banquet for his blushing, completely captivated new fiancée. Solfa formally begins the grand banquet, while she frantically stops Smith from replacing her seemingly untouched meal. Desperate not to waste such luxurious food, she loudly expresses her deep gratitude to the startled butler for his service. Taking her very first bite, her eyes widen in absolute astonishment at the incredibly rich flavors exploding perfectly in her mouth. Instantly transported into a vivid hallucination, she vividly imagines the gentle cows mooing beautifully in a sunlit, peaceful pasture. Snapping violently back to reality, she releases a loud, bewildered gasp as her intense sensory overload completely shatters her composure. She stares intensely down at her plate, utterly mesmerized by the beautifully prepared, magnificent fruit sitting delicately before her. Overwhelmed by the sheer quality of the extravagant meal, heavy tears of pure joy stream steadily down her deeply flushed cheeks. Taking another savory bite, she vividly hallucinates a majestic olive-fed chicken clucking proudly within a vibrant, endless green field. Smith wildly misunderstands her emotional reaction, loudly proclaiming that she is shedding tears of profound gratitude toward the consumed animals. Deeply moved by her supposed empathy, Smith openly praises Lady Rose for possessing such a wonderfully compassionate heart that truly understands life. The entire staff stares in absolute awe, deeply touched by her apparent, beautiful tears of gratitude for the blessed food. Flustered by the excessive praise, she nervously denies having a beautiful heart while timidly reaching for the delicious roast beef. Chewing the incredibly tender beef, her overstimulated mind violently slips back into yet another bizarre, vivid culinary hallucination. She savors the rich, heavenly taste, completely losing herself in the absolute bliss and warmth of the exquisite roast beef. A gloriously radiant cow manifests perfectly within her mind, staring back at her with profound, incredibly peaceful and gentle eyes. Tears flowing freely, she mentally thanks the magnificent imaginary cow for growing up to be so incredibly and perfectly delicious. To her absolute shock, the holy cow warmly thanks her right back for eating its rich meat so passionately and completely. Awestruck by the surreal vision, she watches beautifully glowing angels flutter gracefully around the divinely sacrificed, majestic cow. Immense tears of overwhelming joy well up in her vibrant eyes as she fully embraces the beautiful, endless cycle of life. Basking in the profound imaginary moment, she releases a heavy, deeply contented sigh of pure, unadulterated culinary enlightenment. Returning slowly to reality, she deeply accepts this majestic, heavenly vision as the true, beautiful way that life peacefully goes on. Glistening tears stream steadily down her face, instantly cementing her profound spiritual connection to the Grand Marquis's magnificent feast. Observing her intense emotional reaction, the deeply moved servants quickly begin weeping openly alongside their incredibly compassionate new mistress. The tearful staff collectively praise her pure heart, firmly believing Marquis Solfa can finally be at absolute ease with his match. Utterly bewildered, she frantically wonders why all the maids and butlers are suddenly crying while claiming their hearts feel entirely cleansed. Igniting the festive atmosphere, an overjoyed Solfa fiercely commands his staff to order endless additional dishes until everyone is fully satisfied. Horrified by the rapidly multiplying mountains of food, she shrieks in absolute panic that she cannot possibly eat that much. Sweating nervously, she tragically realizes her unhinged emotional eating completely shattered her delicate plan to perfectly impersonate her sister Rose. Later that evening, a polite servant respectfully guides the exhausted girls to Lady Rose's lavishly prepared and grand private bedroom. Pushing open the heavy wooden doors, Alishi steps cautiously into the breathtakingly grand and opulently decorated, massive sleeping quarters. Coughing to cover her awe, Nena warmly praises the Grandia family's incredible thoughtfulness in preparing such a magnificent, beautiful room. Protecting Alish's secret, Nena firmly commands the servants to absolutely refrain from entering the room unless it is an urgent emergency. Bowing respectfully, the diligent servant completely complies and quickly leaves the deeply exhausted girls to their highly anticipated, quiet privacy. The heavy door clicks shut, instantly prompting Alishi to collapse dramatically as she heavily groans about the painfully suffocating tension. Pacing nervously, Alishi furiously complains that the extreme, terrifying anxiety made it incredibly difficult to actually swallow such a luxurious meal. Sighing heavily, Nena bluntly warns her mistress that violently dissociating into another world with every single bite severely worries her. Taking full credit for the sheer chaotic luck, Nena smugly declares the insane dinner a massive success for leaving a highly positive impression. Completely bewildered by her maid's bizarre confidence, Alishi frantically questions what kind of good impression she could have possibly made. Scolding her sharply, Nena strictly orders Alishi to stop breaking character and demands she firmly remember to act exactly like Rose. Nena ruthlessly reminds her that the real Rose would move elegantly and arrogantly leave most of her expensive food completely untouched. Shocked by the flawless facade, Nena observes that Sister Rose plays the role of a refined high society lady perfectly, unlike her home persona. Considering the peaceful banquet, Nena suggests it might actually be convenient if Marquis Solfa's true interest lies with Lady Alishi. Panicking uncontrollably, Alishi cries out that the situation is terrible because she has no idea how to act going forward. Maintaining absolute calm, Nena gently urges her anxious lady to restrain her sudden outbursts. Formulating a plan, Nena assures her that merging Lady Rose's outward behavior with Alish's inner self will prevent any issues. Overwhelmed by self-doubt, Alishi questions if her purely book-learned manners could ever earn Marquis Solfa's acknowledgement. Trembling slightly, the young lady confesses to her maid that she is entirely consumed by anxiety. Hesitating in the quiet room, she stammers as her deep-seated insecurities briefly paralyze her. Steeling her fractured resolve, Alishi firmly declares she must survive as Rose no matter what happens. Silence hangs heavy in the air as a fierce, unspoken determination settles over the young woman. Moved by those straightforward eyes, Nena fiercely pledges to support her lady with everything she possesses. Recalling sinister rumors of a bloodless and heartless man, Alishi notes that Marquis Solfa's actual demeanor completely contradicts the gossip. Beaming with sudden warmth, she realizes with immense relief that the Marquis seems like a genuinely good person. Contrasting this piece with her hellish past, Alishi feels herself practically overflowing with unexpected happiness. Fueled by fresh courage, Alishi vows to do her absolute best because she has no other choice. Startled by a sudden announcement, the pair gasps as the topic of an open-air bath arises. Polite attendants appear instantly to guide the two women toward the promised bathing area. Bowing respectfully, the servants explain that Marquis Solfa explicitly permitted both Lady Rose and Nena to use the family's outdoor bath. Thrilled by the luxurious invitation, Alish's eyes sparkle wildly with pure, unrestrained excitement. Gesturing ahead, the maids respectfully announce they will wait at the entrance for their guests. Leading the way, the attendants guide the awestruck pair deeper into the separate building. Glancing around cautiously, Alishi breathes a heavy sigh of relief upon confirming the halls are completely empty. Stepping through the doorway, the women quietly admire the spacious and elegantly prepared changing area. Acting prudently, Nena advises wrapping the wig safely and warns that Alish's eye color changing drops will wash out in the hot water. Nodding in silent agreement, Alishi mentally braces herself for the careful unmasking process. Valuing their irreplaceable bond, Alishi affectionately insists her important maid join her in the water. Surprised by the generous invitation, Nena initially offers to simply stand guard at the door. Fixing her gaze on the maid, Alishi silently pleads with her loyal companion to stay by her side. Stepping into the grand enclosure, they gasp simultaneously at the breathtaking outdoor scenery. Marveling at the massive pool, Alishi points out the stunning full moon reflecting perfectly across the water's surface. Slipping effortlessly into her dutiful role, Nena gently offers to wash her lady's back. Fabric rustles softly as a towel drops, leaving Alishi to undress in the rising steam. Staring grimly into the void, Alishi mentally tortures herself with the belief that she has no right to Marquis Solfa's love. Shame washes over her completely as she exposes her battered, vulnerable body to the cool night air. Brutal remnants of her past emerge, displaying an old candle burn and the overlapping scars of daily whippings. Paralyzed by insecurity, she fears Marquis Solfa will immediately reject and banish a noble lady covered in such horrific scars. Flinching slightly from the pain, she prompts a quick, quiet apology from Nena as the maid scrubs the tender skin. Smiling softly through the lingering ache, she sincerely thanks her devoted maid as the cleansing finishes. Sinking deeper into the soothing heat, she gazes thoughtfully into the rippling reflections of the bath. Burdened by dangerous secrets, the scarred lady stares into the quiet night with steely, silent resolve. Sinking into the warm water, she quietly remarks that the bath feels incredibly nice. Relaxing deeply, she feels as though all her past pain and sadness are finally washing away. Turning to her loyal maid, she wistfully whispers her desire for that to truly be the case. Reflecting on distant lands, she recounts tales of people bathing in sacred rivers to cleanse their sins and impurities. Staring at her scarred skin, the young lady anxiously wonders if this water can wash away her own impurities too. Gripping her tightly, Nena fiercely declares that her lady's body will never be harmed again within the Marquis. Embracing her scarred mistress, the devoted maid offers silent but unyielding physical comfort. Holding her close, Nena gently promises Shi that she is completely safe now. Despite the warmth, Shi silently fears the deep wounds carved into her body may never truly heal. Yet in this fleeting moment of tranquility, it genuinely feels as though all her lingering pain is finally healing. To her utter confusion, Marquis Solfa's face keeps mysteriously appearing and fading within her mind. Finding sudden comfort, she decides that everything will surely be fine with Nena and the Marquis by her side. Startled by a sudden sound, she realizes she can actually hear the Marquis's voice drifting through the air. Hearing Solfa confirm their presence in the bath, the bewildered lady questions if she is experiencing an auditory hallucination. Panicking instantly, Nena loudly warns her mistress that Marquis Solfa's voice is coming from just beyond the changing area. Shock reverberates through the steam as Shi desperately realizes the Marquis is actually here. Speaking calmly from outside, Solfa politely announces his intention to wait right there for them. Terror strikes Shi as she recognizes the extreme danger of Lord Solfa standing just on the other side of the dressing room. Whispering frantically, the pair agrees they must stop holding loud strategy meetings in the open-air bath. Shifting focus rapidly, Nena emphasizes that their current predicament is far more urgent than overheard whispers. Dread sets in as they remember the estate only has one unseparated open-air bath, leaving them no way to keep Solfa waiting. Connecting the terrifying dots, Shi realizes this intimate setup essentially makes it a mixed bath. Rationalizing the nightmare, Nena points out it is completely natural for Lord Solfa to use his own family's bath. Paralyzed by fear, Shi vividly imagines the disaster if the Marquis suddenly changes his mind and enters. Springing into action, Nena urges Shi to quickly assume Lady Rose's appearance while she distracts him. Trembling at the stakes, Shi knows a furious Marquis would never forgive them if the substitution is discovered. Overwhelmed by impending doom, she fears neither of them would make it out of the estate alive. Splashing out of the water, the desperate substitute swiftly abandons the soothing bath. Racing against time, Shi hurries barefoot across the wet stone to secure her flawless disguise. Water drips rapidly from her tense frame as she scrambles to hide her true identity. Warning her sternly, Nena reminds Shi that the hot water delays the rainbow bloom eye drop's magical effect. Gazing anxiously into the mirror, the frantic lady waits for her true features to shift. Dismay washes over her as the reflection stares back with Alish's original pale green eyes. Breaking the tense silence, Lord Solfa's voice suddenly calls out from the nearby hall. Apologizing for rushing them, Solfa is quickly stalled by Nena begging for just a little more time. Clutching her chest, she feels her heart pounding wildly as she doubts her ability to perfectly mimic Sister Rose. Steeling her fractured resolve, she vows to don Rose's deceptive mask the exact moment her eyes turn blue. Waiting patiently on the other side, Lord Solfa politely apologizes for the unexpected intrusion. Listening closely, Shi senses a profound, unexpected kindness hidden deep within the Marquis's deep voice. Staring into the mirror, the disguised lady hopelessly wonders if Lord Solfa will ever love her true self once the mask is finally removed. Gazing wistfully into the distance, Shi quietly wonders how incredibly happy she would be if this man truly loved her. Stepping forward with quiet grace, the imposing Marquis gently calls out Rose's name into the night. Clutching her chest in confusion, the disguised lady questions whether her rapidly racing heart stems from mere nervousness or something far deeper. Startled by the Marquis's sudden approach, Nena nervously blurts out that Rose might have felt dizzy and collapsed in the bath. Noting the prolonged delay, Solfa questions the maid's hasty excuse while Nena stammers defensively in response. Stepping out flawlessly in her noble disguise, Shi politely apologizes for keeping the Marquis waiting so long. Explaining his evening patrol, Solfa apologizes for rushing her, but Shi smoothly assures him she was already finishing her lovely bath. Greeting the Marquis with perfect aristocratic respect, Ali-Shi quickly gathers Nena to make a polite and swift exit. Encouraging her to use their prized family bath freely, Solfa receives a gracious, affirming nod from the disguised lady. Turning away softly, Ali-Shi prepares to leave the quiet corridor with her devoted maid closely in tow. Reaching out suddenly, Marquis Solfa gently but firmly catches her arm to halt her immediate departure. Startled by the highly unexpected physical contact, Ali-Shi gasps his name aloud in pure, unadulterated shock. Leaning in dangerously close, the imposing Marquis peers intently directly into her wide, fearful eyes. Tension spikes massively as his piercing, unyielding gaze seems to search the very depths of her hidden soul. Stammering nervously under his intense scrutiny, Ali-Shi recoils slightly before Solfa suddenly apologizes and dismisses his own intrusive thoughts. Explaining his bizarre behavior, the Marquis admits her beautiful blue eyes briefly looked pale green to him for a fleeting moment. Panicking internally about her fading medicine, Ali-Shi quickly insists he is imagining things, prompting another polite apology from the nobleman. Bidding her a peaceful night's rest, Solfa formally excuses himself as Ali-Shi respectfully returns the gentle farewell. Slumping against the stone wall in sheer relief, both exhausted women exhale sharply after surviving the incredibly close call. Acknowledging Solfa's terrifyingly sharp observation skills, Ali-Shi resolves that they must be far more cautious around him from now on. Moving quietly through the dimly lit halls, the drained pair heads quickly back to their secure guest quarters. Agreeing completely with the heightened risk, Nena seriously advises her lady to sleep with her wig and colored eyes fully applied. Exhausted completely by the long day, the devoted maid and grateful lady exchange warm, tired goodnights in the safety of their room. Reflecting on the shocking revelation that the marriage proposal was actually for her, Ali-Shi marvels that the eccentric hero Lord Solfa is genuinely a wonderful person. Morning sunlight gently streams through the grand windows of the Marquis estate to signal the start of a brand new day. Greeting the bright new morning, a formal servant politely approaches and wishes Lady Rose a good day. Dressed flawlessly in her elegant aristocratic attire, Ali-Shi gracefully prepares herself to face the household's scrutiny once again. Stepping confidently into the sunlit corridor, the impeccably disguised lady encounters the estate's diligent head butler waiting for her. Nodding with practiced, flawless elegance, Ali-Shi warmly bids good morning to the attentive Smith. Accepting the butler's prompt invitation, she gracefully agrees to be escorted to the dining hall for the prepared breakfast. Walking with exceptionally refined poise, she silently follows the head butler through the sprawling, opulent corridors of the estate. Gesturing politely ahead, Smith meticulously leads the esteemed guest straight toward the grand dining area. Entering the lavishly decorated hall, Ali-Shi immediately takes in the breathtaking sight of the massive, meticulously set dining table. Spotting her imposing host already seated at the head, she quickly offers a polite and formal morning greeting. Looking up slowly from his seat, Marquis Solfa calmly returns the pleasant greeting with a smooth, even tone. Mentally bracing herself to maintain complete emotional composure, she calmly follows the servant to her specifically designated seat. Sitting down flawlessly, the deeply anxious substitute perfectly mirrors the refined, strict etiquette of high nobility. Glancing subtly across the large table, she silently admires how Lord Solfa carries such a dignified aura even in the early morning. Servants swiftly and silently approach the long table to flawlessly serve the lavish morning feast to the gathered nobles. Marveling at the incredibly luxurious spread, she silently takes in the mouth-watering sight of fluffy omelets, fresh bread, and a sparkling green salad. Savoring her morning meal, Ali-Shi happily takes a bite of the delicious food. Chewing thoughtfully, the disguised lady thoroughly enjoys the lavish breakfast prepared for her. Drifting into nostalgia, she silently wonders if her beloved cows, Momo and Milky, are doing well back home. Breaking the quiet atmosphere, Marquis Solfa formally invites everyone to begin eating. Lifting her glass with a soft smile, Ali-Shi takes a gentle sip of the fresh milk. Staring intently across the table, the sharp-eyed Marquis watches her drink in complete silence. Apologizing abruptly, Solfa confesses that seeing Rose drink milk strangely overlapped with his vivid memory of Ali-Shi milking cows. Tilting her head in feigned confusion, Ali-Shi nervously asks if something is the matter. Narrowing his piercing gaze, the perceptive nobleman silently contemplates his sudden burst of intuition. Reflecting on his rudeness, Solfa sincerely apologizes for doubting her right after promising to love her, while Ali-Shi panics internally over his terrifyingly sharp instincts. Laughing awkwardly, Ali-Shi plays it off by claiming she was merely thinking about Momo and Milky to flawlessly reinforce her disguise as Rose Goldo. Flustered by his intense seriousness, she quickly waves her hands and insists there is absolutely no need for him to reflect so deeply. Shifting the topic smoothly, Solfa mentions that he is completely off duty from his public responsibilities today. Leaning in slightly, the imposing Marquis proposes a special outing to fill their newly freed schedule. Whispering excitedly into her lady's ear, Nena breathlessly suggests that Lord Solfa is actually asking her out on a romantic date. Denying it frantically, Alishi stammers in shock while Nena eagerly asks to tag along for the prestigious territory tour. Struck by the overwhelming concept, Alishi vividly imagines what a romantic outing with the imposing Marquis would actually look like. Paralyzed by sheer panic, her mind spirals completely out of control at the terrifying prospect of a date with Lord Solfa. Clearing his throat loudly, Solfa gently calls out Rose's name to snap her entirely out of her stunned daze. Clarifying the massive misunderstanding, Solfa strictly explains he is merely guiding them around the Dias territory, not taking her on a formal date. Seizing the conversational lifeline, a deeply blushing Alishi leaps up and loudly declares they must hurry and prepare. Mortified by her own massive overreaction, Alishi internally curses herself for getting so completely flustered over nothing. Accommodating her sudden urgency, Solfa calmly offers to show her a specific room while she finishes preparing after the meal. Gesturing politely down the grand corridor, the Marquis leads the curious disguised lady straight toward their mysterious destination. Following closely behind, Alishi quietly wonders what kind of special room he could possibly want to show her. Stopping before a massive set of ornate double doors, Solfa grasps the handles with quiet, practiced confidence. Stepping through the threshold, both Alishi and Nena widen their eyes in absolute, unrestrained astonishment. Frozen instantly in their tracks, the speechless pair stares blankly into the brightly lit, magnificent space. Taking in the breathtaking view, they marvel at a tremendously spacious room filled completely with vibrant flowers and luxury garments. Scanning the spectacular wardrobe, they find everything from delicate social gathering gowns to light, elegant one-piece outfits. Revealing the room's grand purpose, Smith explains the master personally prepared these exquisite dresses for the young master's future bride. Gesturing to the endless racks, the proud butler notes they stocked various sizes to ensure a perfect fit for whoever the bride might be. Overwhelmed by the sheer scale of Marquis wealth, Nena shockingly realizes there are more dresses here than the real Lady Rose actually owns. Frowning slightly in confusion, Alishi questions why such a massive wardrobe was prepared solely for a future bride rather than a daughter. Pivoting her curiosity, she gently asks if Marquis Solfa perhaps has a sister close in age who might wear these exceptionally well-designed outfits. Smiling softly at the thoughtful gesture, Nena suggests this grand display proves just how deeply Marquis Grandia loves his only son. Lowering his gaze in sudden sorrow, Smith solemnly reveals that Solfa's only younger sister and mother tragically passed away from a brutal epidemic. Horrified by the devastating revelation, Alishi gasps in shock at the terrible tragedy that struck the Marquis's once happy family. Elaborating on the tragic past, Smith explains the heartbroken master simply wishes for his only surviving son to find genuine happiness. Bowing her head in deep regret, Alishi apologizes for blindly prying into their painful history, though Smith kindly assures her she would have learned it eventually. Bowing respectfully, the diligent butler excuses himself from the grand dressing room and instructs them to call if anything is needed. Staring at the massive collection, the stunned pair quietly wonders how to even begin choosing an appropriate outfit. Recalling Lady Rose's habit of changing dresses daily, Alishi struggles immensely with making a selection for her own sake. Seeing a rare opportunity, Nena eagerly suggests they try on various beautiful outfits just for the fun of it. Nodding in agreement, Alishi rationally notes they only need a modest outfit suitable for walking around town rather than an extravagant ball gown. Feeling entirely overwhelmed by the lavish garments prepared by Marquis Solfa's father, she desperately wants to wear them gracefully. Suddenly struck by a surge of determination, the disguised lady powerfully clenches her fist with a brand new idea. Groaning softly in frustration, Alishi admits that making this final clothing decision is actually incredibly difficult. Resolving to honor the Marquis's father's wishes for a future bride, Alishi vows to select the very best outfit, prompting Nena's enthusiastic support. Embracing the exciting process, Alishi decides to happily try on different dresses while pondering if a passionate red would suit her best. Pulling garments from the endless racks, an excited Nena rapidly holds up multiple stunning options for her lady's careful consideration. Staring completely dumbfounded into the full-length mirror, Alishi completely fails to recognize her own dazzling reflection. Clasped hands pressed to her chest, Nena breathlessly declares her lady looks as radiant and beautiful as a nation's queen. Trembling with pure awe, Alishi struggles to comprehend that she is actually wearing an exquisite dress previously only seen in fairy tales. Overwhelmed by the incredible physical transformation, Nena's eyes immediately well up with happy, unrestrained tears. Comparing this miraculous moment to her dark past, Alishi marvels that such a glorious day could ever arrive for her. Noticing her loyal maid's sudden tears, Alishi worriedly asks what is wrong while Nena quickly waves off the concern. Wiping her eyes quickly, the devoted servant firmly insists that her lady's transformation is truly a miraculous sight. Pinching herself in disbelief, a deeply emotional Nena softly wonders aloud if this beautiful moment is all just a fleeting dream. Gazing softly at her stunning reflection, Alishi wholeheartedly agrees that this entire lavish experience feels entirely surreal. Reaching out playfully, Nena gently pinches her lady's soft cheek to firmly prove they are both wide awake in reality. Breaking the tender moment, Marquis Sulfa calls out from behind the heavy wooden door to politely check on their progress. Stealing her nerves instantly, Alishi formally assures the Marquis that her capable maid is successfully handling all her needs. Slapping her cheeks lightly, the disguised lady forcefully reminds herself to stop getting overwhelmed and actually pick a practical walking outfit. Striding purposefully back to the massive racks, Alishi scans the luxurious garments with a brand new, sharply focused determination. Muttering her primary objective under her breath, she critically evaluates the wardrobe specifically for walking comfortably through the bustling town. Pulling a specific garment decisively from its elegant hanger, Alishi finally makes her absolute, unwavering final choice. Gasping in sheer surprise, Nena instantly recognizes the unexpected nature of her lady's sudden clothing selection. Smiling with quiet confidence, Alishi brilliantly explains she chose this specific outfit solely because she is walking alongside Marquis Sulfa. Beaming with absolute pride, Nena enthusiastically agrees that the chosen attire is completely perfect for the important occasion. Nodding in perfect sync, the dedicated maid swiftly moves to help her lady change into the final selected outfit. Standing patiently in the grand hallway, the imposing Marquis silently waits for his disguised guest to finally emerge. Grabbing the ornate handles firmly, Alishi slowly pushes the heavy double doors open to reveal her stunning final look. Hearing the heavy latch click, Sulfa turns his sharp, commanding gaze straight toward the grand threshold. Stepping out of the shadows, the radiant lady prompts the breathless Marquis to softly whisper her name in awe. Bowing her head with practiced, flawless grace, Alishi politely thanks Marquis Sulfa for his extended patience. Staring completely transfixed, the usually stoic nobleman finds himself entirely captivated by her unexpectedly elegant appearance. Adorned in a modest yet flawlessly tailored dress, the disguised lady radiates an undeniable, magnetic charm. Catching his breath sharply, a faint but undeniable blush creeps across Sulfa's usually composed, icy features. Staring back with equal intensity, Alishi privately notes she completely abandoned Lady Rose's flashy style and her own desires for this perfect, calculated choice. Staring at her uniquely chosen outfit, Marquis Sulfa notes with mild surprise that she is not wearing a traditional noble dress. Questioning his stunned reaction, Alishi wonders aloud if wearing a lavish gown wouldn't make it difficult to comfortably enjoy walking around the town. Proudly explaining her choice, Alishi notes that the outfit models a traditional style popular among the agricultural people of the Dias territory. Recalling her challenging past, she explains that the charming attire left a lasting impression on her during a previous visit to a local market. Privately reflecting on their earlier interactions, Alishi remembers that the Marquis specifically praised her for not wearing flashy dresses or accessories. Smiling softly to herself, she firmly believes this modest look truly suits the casual occasion perfectly. Abandoning the glamorous image of Rose entirely, the disguised lady opts instead to embrace a simple and natural kind of cuteness. Fidgeting nervously with the fabric, an anxious Alishi desperately wonders if Marquis Sulfa will genuinely like her carefully selected appearance. Staring back in stunned silence, the imposing Marquis silently takes in her breathtakingly modest transformation. Tension fills the heavy air as Alish's heart pounds wildly while waiting for the stoic nobleman's final verdict. Catching his breath sharply, a faint but undeniable blush visibly spreads across Marquis Sulfa's usually composed face. Feeling a sudden, electric jolt in her chest, Alishi watches his unexpected and entirely uncharacteristic flustered reaction. Breaking the heavy silence, the captivated Marquis softly and affectionately breathes Rose's name into the quiet room. Stammering slightly under his intense gaze, Alishi nervously attempts to articulate a polite word of thanks. Smiling warmly, Marquis Sulfa sincerely praises his disguised bride by declaring that the outfit suits her incredibly well. Noticing his flushed cheeks, Alishi worriedly asks if he has a fever, prompting the flustered Marquis to quickly deny it. Recovering her composure gracefully, Alishi compliments the Marquis right back while warmly thanking him for his kind words. Extending his hand courteously, Sulfa gently invites Rose to begin their highly anticipated stroll through the town. Reaching out timidly, Alishi softly places her trembling hand directly into the Marquis's large, welcoming palm. Agreeing with a soft smile, the blushing lady silently screams internally as her racing heart pounds wildly in her chest. Walking hand in hand, she wonders if her racing pulse stems from his warm touch or her budding hope for a genuine future together. Spotting the noble couple from a distance, a shadowy figure suddenly peers out from the bustling city crowd. The vibrant scene shifts instantly to the lively Rams Main Street located deep within the prosperous Diaz territory. A sinister grin stretches across the mysterious stranger's face as he intently observes the noble couple walking through the busy street. Sneering wickedly at the unaware couple, Alish's cruel brother-in-law Balsami Goldo realizes he has stumbled across an incredibly interesting situation.